Hello, my name is Steve. Welcome to SA. A fisherman working on a large boat felt that the net was heavier than usual when he took it in. He thought it was a bumper harvest, but he never thought that there is a man in the fishing net. Who is the man? Why did he fall into the sea? Can the police successfully solve the case based on a few clues? Next, I will tell you the story that happened on the English Channel. There is a Devon County in the south-west of England. It has a long and narrow coastline, and its south is the famous English Channel. The English Channel, also known as simply the Channel, separates the UK from mainland Europe and is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. It is rich in black carp, flying fish and flatfish, etc. It is an important fishing ground in the UK. There are multiple fishing ports in Devon County. Today's story begins with a fisherman. July 28, 1996, it was a Sunday. The strait is calm and the waves are good for fishing. Before dawn, some fishing boats were ready to go out to sea. At 5 o'clock in the morning, a fisherman named John Kopic drove his fishing boat out of the port to fish in his familiar sea. It seemed that their luck was not very good that day, and after a few hours there was nothing to gain. John, an experienced fisherman, decided to go further afield, where there were not many people fishing and there should be a harvest. After a period of sailing they reached the planned sea area and cast a large fishing net. After waiting for an hour they started to took back the net. Several fishermen found that the nets were heavier than before, and there were probably several big fish. As the net was pulled up, fish big and small fell on the deck. It didn't take long for the fishermen to make an astonishing discovery, seeing a man curled up in a fishing net. He was well dressed and had no obvious scars, but he had no vital signs. The fishermen immediately contacted the Coast Guard. The police boarded the ship shortly. The man in the net looks like a rich man. He was wearing a high-quality shirt with a belt around his waist and high-quality trousers. He has trouser pockets turned inside out, brown shoes and a gold necklace around his neck. There is a tattoo on the back of his hand, but the pattern has been blurred. The man also wears a silver Rolex watch on his wrist. The hour hand has stopped turning, the time is 11:33, and the date is July 22nd. This is a Rolex Oyster Perpetual watch, a monoblock middle case, screw-down case back and winding crown invented by the brand. Automatic watch, all manual movement, no battery needed, power comes from the swing of the wrist. There is at least 40 hours of power reserve even when the watch is not worn, after which the watch will stop. After the man fell into the water, his arm was almost stationary, so it is estimated that he fell into the water 2 days before the date displayed on the watch. The sea where the man was found is near Devon County, so the case is being investigated by Devon County Police. The forensic doctor immediately examined the body. The men are 40 to 45 years old. He had a slight bruise on his left leg and left hip, and a 3 cm long wound on the back of his head. The forensic doctor said the wound was not fatal and was likely caused by hitting the deck when he was pulled up by the fishing net. The man is presumed to have died from drowning, a week earlier on July 20th. Who is this man? Why did he fall into the sea? Those are 2 questions that Devon County Police need to unravel. Guess 1. It is possible that he was an angler at the seaside, who accidentally fell into the sea during fishing and was pushed into the distance by the waves. To test this claim, investigators turned to an oceanographer to find out. Taking into account recent weather and currents and other factors, oceanographers believe the waves could not have pushed the man from the beach to where he was found. In other words, the man fell into the water at sea. Police are investigating recent missing persons. They discovered that only one young man in his 20s had recently fallen into the sea after being drunk, and his whereabouts are so far unknown. But the men who wear Rolex are 40 to 45 years old, and the age does not match. Profiles of other recent disappearances also do not match the Rolex-wearing man. Guess 2, could he be the crew member who accidentally fell into the water? Police went to a nearby dock to investigate. But there have been no recent reports of shipwrecks or sailors falling into the sea. After a period of investigation, the man's identity has not been confirmed. The police believe that there is a high probability of an accidental drowning incident, and there is little point in continuing the investigation. So they kept the evidence of the case properly for his family members to claim in future. A young police officer came into contact with the case. He has only been a police officer for a short time, so he is full of curiosity about various cases. After carefully reviewing the information on the case, he felt that the Rolex watch on the man's wrist might be the breach. So he turned to a friend of his who was very knowledgeable about watches. He said that Rolex branded watches usually have a unique serial number. Through the serial number, you can check the place of purchase, the date of purchase and the information of the purchaser. After the friend's guidance, the police found out that the Rolex watch was sold in Germany 29 years ago, and several repairs were carried out during this period. The buyer, Ronald Platt, is a 51-year-old TV repairman who was born in Canada and moved to the UK. The identity of the original purchaser of the Rolex watch has been found, but he may not be the drowning man. Because after all 29 years have passed, the watch may have changed owners. Officers tried to search records of Ronald's dental visits in the UK. After examining Ronald and the drowning man's teeth, the identity of the drowning man has been confirmed. Ronald's home is in Essex County, and the sea where he was found is near Devon County, 350 kilometers apart. Officers contacted Essex County Police, hoping they can go to Ronald's home to check on the situation. An Essex County Sheriff's Department investigator went to Ronald's home. He found that the furniture in the residence had been emptied, the windowsills had accumulated a layer of dust, and it seemed that no one had lived in them for some time. Investigators found the landlord. The landlord said Ronald was indeed the tenant here, but he had moved out a few months ago, and he doesn't know where he went. Ronald also left no contact details, and the house has been vacant for several months and has not been rented out. Investigators entered Ronald's house with permission. They found letters, and one of them had a name on it, Davis. There is also a phone number on the letter. The police called the Davis to ask if he knew Ronald. Davis said he and Ronald are very good friends, but haven't seen him in a while. Police broke the news of Ronald's death at sea to Davis and asked for his address. They wanted to go to Davis's house and ask about it in person. Davis, on the other end of the phone, said it wasn't convenient at home today, but he could come to the police station. A man in his 50s walked into the Essex County Sheriff's Department at 2 p.m. He was neatly dressed and spoke confidently. He said his name was Davis and he was a friend of Ronald's. The police then spoke to him. Davis said he last saw Ronald 2 months ago in June. Ronald borrowed him a sum of money to go to France to do a TV repair business. Since Ronald didn't know which city he was going to, he didn't leave an address. They have not been in touch for the past 2 months. He believes Ronald may have accidentally fallen into the water while on a ferry to France. Davis said Ronald has a maple leaf tattoo on the back of his hand, which fits the characteristics of a drowning man. This all sounds reasonable and fits with the initial police inference of an accidental fall into the water. But the police officer in charge of the case insisted that there was something wrong with the case. He hopes to contact Davis again to see if he can provide more clues. Strangely enough, the police couldn't get in touch with Davis after he left the station. Investigators went to Davis's village where they found 2 similar white houses. They didn't know which house was Davis's, so they went to one of the houses and knocked on the door. It was an old woman who opened the door, and she said that the house next door was the address they were looking for. Since the house numbers of the 2 houses are similar, people often knock on the wrong door. Investigators told the old woman they were looking for David Davis. The old woman was unfamiliar with the name. She told investigators that the man living next door was not named David Davis, but Ronald Platt. The old lady said that she had seen their family last week. But Ronald drowned 3 months ago. How could she have seen their family last week? If Ronald was still alive, who was the man found in the waters off Devon County? The old lady then described the characteristics of the occupants of the house next door. These characteristics are consistent with Davis. The old lady was very enthusiastic and invited the investigators into the house. She said Ronald, who just moved in next door, has a much younger wife and 2 children. Their family seems to be very wealthy. She also heard that they bought a sailboat in Devon County. The family often travels. They've been away from home for a while now and should be on vacation in Devon County again. After getting clues, the police searched the birth certificates of the 2 children. One was 3 years old and the other was 10 months old. The surnames on the birth certificate are all Platt, and the child's mother is Noelle Platt, who used to be Elaine Boyes before. Investigators found Elaine's profile from the database. They went to the old lady's house again, but the old lady said that the person in the photo was not the woman next door at all. The woman next door is much younger than the person in the photo. So far, investigators have come to a startling conclusion that Davis has stolen Ronald's identity as his wife's. Police contacted the real Elaine, who said she was Ronald's ex-girlfriend. She and Ronald met Davis many years ago. Davis claimed to be a rich man from America who came to settle in England. Davis started a financial company in the UK and also invited Elaine and Ronald to serve as company directors. Elaine often needs to travel to various countries at work, and Davis will give her an envelope with thousands of francs and ask her to change it into pounds before trip. Ronald was born in Canada and he has always dreamed of returning to live in Canada, but it has not been possible due to financial reasons. 4 years ago, Davis gave Ronald 2 airline tickets so he could take his girlfriend Elaine to live in Canada together. They set off for Canada right away, but a few months later Ronald and Elaine had a heated argument. Elaine then returned to the UK and Ronald stayed in Canada before they were no longer in contact. Elaine said Davis had called her recently, but he didn't say anything about Ronald's drowning death. According to Davis's cell phone location records, he has been in Devon County several times recently. A Devon County witness said he saw Davis and Ronald at a hotel a few days before the incident. They were talking and laughing at the time and seemed to have a good relationship. Davis also has a sailboat in Devon County. Based on the current clues, the police have reason to suspect that Davis pushed Ronald into the water on the sailboat, and the motive for the crime is to steal the identity of Ronald. 3 months after the incident, police arrested Davis on suspicion of murder. Davis appeared calm when he was arrested, and he denies any involvement in the case. Davis's wife was also arrested on suspicion of cooperating with the crime. They have 2 children at home, a 3-year-old who is entrusted to the care of a neighbor and a 10-month-old who cannot leave his mother by law. Elaine was allowed to bring some baby items to look after the 10-month-old kid. She put some items in a bag, but the bag looked heavy, raising suspicions from police. In addition to baby items, they found thousands of pounds in cash, 2 gold nuggets, some documents, and the birth certificates of 2 children. When asked by police, Elaine said they left Canada to live in the UK 6 years ago, shortly after she became pregnant. Since she can only provide medical services for her child with a British identity, she has stolen someone else's identity. Elaine is 21 years old and her husband is 50 years old, a full 29 years apart. Elaine was silent on questions from the police about how they met. The policeman put forward a bizarre hypothesis for such a move. Elaine is not David Davis's wife, but his daughter. Elaine collapsed upon hearing such speculation. She admitted she was indeed David's daughter, and her own real name is Sheena Walker, but she declined to identify the father of the 2 children. Elaine's husband, Davis, has pleaded not guilty since his arrest. British law gives police 36 hours after arresting a suspect to gather more evidence. If no further evidence is found during the period, the suspect can only be released. A thorough search of Davis's home during the interrogation found £30,000 in cash, 17 gold nuggets and some expensive paintings. In addition to this, the police found a marine GPS device in the home. The police took the device to the manufacturer, and the technicians got some historical records by some means. The device appeared in the waters outside Devon County at 9 p.m. on the day Ronald was killed. Police then boarded Davis's sailboat for inspection. They found some hair on a seat cushion in the cabin, a fingerprint on a leather bag, and after checking they all belonged to Ronald. No blood was found on the boat. They also need to find out whether Ronald accidentally fell into the water or was pushed into the water. Investigators questioned the fisherman who found Ronald's body. The fisherman said he found an anchor in addition to Ronald when he was pulling in his net. He was completely unaware at the time that the anchor had anything to do with the man, and police did not take the anchor away. So he later gave the anchor to a friend. It does seem strange to be able to salvage an anchor in that area now. After talking to the fisherman, police believed that the anchor was a very important clue. So the police managed to find the fisherman's friend, but he gave the anchor to his mother. The mother thought the anchor was useless and planned to send it to the auction house for auction. After a painstaking pursuit, police finally found the anchor in the trunk of a car. Ronald has a 3 centimeters wound on the back of his head that looks like it was struck by an anchor in terms of shape and length. Ronald has a bruise on his left hip and a left leg. The distance between the 2 wounds is exactly the length of the anchor. The forensic examiner examined the belt on Ronald's waist and found obvious twist marks on the left side of the belt, much like it had been left by a heavy object. The laboratory found a layer of metallic zinc on the belt, which was consistent with the galvanized composition of the anchor surface after testing. The anchor weighs 4.5 kilograms, and the forensic medical examiner believes that Ronald's injuries are consistent with the anchor. Based on the above clues, the police came to a speculation. On the day of the crime, Ronald and David went out to sea together, and David took an anchor while Ronald was unprepared and attacked Ronald from behind. He then tied the anchor to Ronald's belt and pushed him into the sea, so Ronald couldn't surface. During a search of Davis's home, police found a receipt dated July 8, 12 days before the incident. A clerk at the store said he clearly remembers a man who identified himself as Ronald buying an anchor and 6 other items from him. David speaks with a Canadian accent, and the clerk recommended a heavier anchor to him at the time, but David said the 4.5 kilograms anchor was enough. So far, although the police have no direct evidence of Davis's crime, these indirect evidences are enough to support a complete chain of evidence. Then it never occurred to them that these were not the whole story. Davis's fingerprints were handed over to Interpol, where they made a surprising discovery. It turns out that the name Davis is also a pseudonym. His real name is Albert Walker, a fugitive from Canada. Davis was pseudonym he started using 6 years ago. Albert was born in Ontario, Canada, in August 1946. He started working after dropping out of high school and later applied for a job as a bank teller, where he learned some financial literacy. 2 years later, Albert quit his job to open a financial services company, specializing in bookkeeping, loan financing, and other services. Albert's shrewd and capable company's business is getting better and better, and later opened 6 branches with more than 30 employees. He married at the age of 22 and had 4 children, 1 son and 3 daughters. Albert originally had a happy family, but he became insatiable in his pursuit of more wealth. Then he started to have some financial crimes. He transferred $3.2 million from 70 clients into his own accounts, which he then used to invest in stocks. Unexpectedly, one of the stocks he invested heavily in plummeted. For some clients, the money was their life savings, so someone threatened Albert with his life. And police have also started investigating him for financial fraud. Albert felt he couldn't stay in Canada any longer and he started planning to escape. Without telling his wife, he mortgaged the house in exchange for a large amount of cash. Then Albert took 15-year-old Sheena to England. Instead of skiing in Europe, he plans to never go back to Canada. In order to cover up his whereabouts, Albert stole the identity of a Canadian man, Davis, in London. He disguised himself as a wealthy entrepreneur among celebrities and made many friends. It didn't take long for him to open a new financial company in the northern English town of Harrogate. Albert met Elaine, a receptionist at an auction house 5 years ago. He hired Elaine to work for his company at a high salary. Elaine didn't know that the person in front of her was a big liar, and she also introduced her boyfriend Ronald to Albert. The three soon became friends. 3 years after coming to the UK, Albert was charged in Canada with 18 counts of fraud, among other counts, and he is wanted nationally. If it goes on like this, Albert will be discovered by the British police sooner or later, and he needs a secure new identity. In the process of getting along with Ronald, Albert learned that Ronald grew up in Canada and was eager to live in Canada. Then Albert had an evil idea. He thought that as long as Ronald left the UK, he could justifiably use his identity. In order to gain the trust of Ronald and Elaine, Albert made them directors of the company and ran a TV repair business with Ronald. Albert often encouraged Ronald to immigrate to Canada. Under repeated persuasion, the little wish in Ronald's heart was awakened. He really wanted to settle in Canada. Albert took the opportunity to send Ronald 2 plane tickets to Canada and promised to bear the related costs, on the condition that Ronald needs to sign a business agreement. He asked Ronald to provide documents such as a driver's license, stamp and birth certificate on the grounds of running a business, which Ronald readily agreed. Ronald flew to Canada with his girlfriend Elaine 4 years before the incident. However, the two began arguing after only 6 months in Canada. Elaine returned to England in a fit of anger, while Ronald stayed in Canada. Albert started stealing his identity after Ronald left the UK. To keep his daughter Sheena's identity from leaking, Albert let her use Elaine's identity. When the real Elaine returned to England, Sheena changed her name to Noelle Platt. Their father-daughter relationship also turned into a husband and wife relationship. Sheena gave birth to her first child 3 years before the crime, and her second child 10 months before the crime. The father on the birth certificate is Ronald. Albert and Sheena moved to the small village 2 years before the crime, and they started using false names. Since no one in the village knew the real Ronald, they were fined for several months. A phone call broke their peace a year before the case. The call was from Ronald, who said he was in financial trouble in Canada and has now returned to the UK. He wanted to meet Davis, real Albert. Ronald would never have imagined that for many years Albert was living happily in his identity in England. Albert learns that Ronald has returned to England and realizes that if he doesn't do something, what he has done over the years will be revealed. So he plans to make Ronald disappear forever, so that he can use each other's identity for the rest of his life. A month before the incident, Albert had purchased a sailboat in Devon County. Albert bought an anchor with a credit card in Ronald's name and invited Ronald to go fishing. They checked into a hotel before leaving and were seen 10 days before the incident. According to the clues such as GPS parameters and the time on the watch, Albert was driving a sailboat and Ronald went out to sea at 9 o'clock in the evening on the day of the incident. Albert knocked Ronald stunned with the anchor on the boat and went on to get all the IDs on him. To keep the body from floating, Albert hung the anchor on his belt and pushed Ronald into the sea. But he forgot to take Ronald's Rolex watch, which became a key clue for the police to solve the case. The case went to trial in 1998 with a jury consisting of 4 men and 8 women. During the trial, the police asked an embarrassing question. Who is the father of Sheena's 2 children? Albert said his daughter Sheena was pregnant unexpectedly and he did not know who the father was. Since she wasn't married, or Albert was making things seem normal, they pretended to be husband and wife. For the protection of minors, the true identity of the child's father has not been disclosed to the public. Albert said he invited Ronald on a trip to Essex County 11 days before the incident. But Ronald accidentally bumped his head that day and later became ill, so they gave up on the trip. Ronald left him the next day with his luggage. He said he was going to France to do business, and they never saw each other again. Albert admitted that he did go out to sea on the day of the crime, but he was alone on the boat and Ronald was not present. He pleaded guilty to fraud and other crimes but firmly denied the murder charge. Albert's daughter attended the trial as a prosecution witness. She said she and Albert and their 2 children were vacationing in Devon County on the day of the incident. Albert went out early that morning and didn't come back until 10 p.m., not knowing where he went. After returning, Albert said that he had a good day, but was a little tired. The case was a 3-month-long trial, with 12 jurors reaching a consensus after 2 hours of deliberation. The court convicted defendant Albert Walker of murder and sentenced him to life in prison. After the trial, Albert maintained his innocence and appealed, which was dismissed by the court. Albert was extradited to Canada 7 years later. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for crimes including theft, fraud and money laundering. Today he is 76 years old and is still serving a sentence in a prison in BC. There are several key points in this case. The first is that fishermen have discovered the situation. The second is that the Rolex watch confirms the identity of the victim. The third is because the police happened to knock on the wrong door. The fourth is that the police found the anchor. A series of factors contributed to the final solution.